Hello and welcome back to the final part of restoring this Massey Ferguson 135. Damaged terribly at the beginning of the year in a barn fire. I'm almost there, we're just going to finish it off. Today's episode is going to see this finished, driving out the door. We shouldn't be surprised at all at how long it's taken just to get the burnt rubber and plastic off of this tank, and we're still not there. I'm going to have to do it with a disc, so I've used different wire wheels to get the worst of it off, but it's just not cleaning up, and I should not be surprised really, considering how long this was encapsulated in the fire. So as I've explained, this was under the hood. The fire started at the battery and went into the cab for the electrics, but a majority of the fire was above the engine and directly on and around this diesel tank. Again, I have no idea how the tank isn't more damaged. Now, I have done a brief air test on it, and it appears to be holding air. But because of the heat and the damage, really, I need to replace the O-rings and pop the sender unit out just to see if the unit itself survived the fire. We'll do an aim test on it. Don't go in the tank. Well, I can't even see how that... How could that come out of that tiny hole? Can we even see the float in there? Yay! Okay, well, quite obviously that's had heat to it, but it actually looks really good, as does the inside of the tank. The tank, I mean, it's completely dry and completely empty, but it looks like new. Okay, well, let's just run a Ames test on this. Can't see what I'm looking at. There we go. Set to Ames. And then we'll test the resistance of said item. No ohms. Yep, that appears to be working. Look how clean that is in there. You can see the heat got to the inside of that, but the inside of the cap and the rubber's good. But the tank is really good, and in there it's really good. So we just need to clean this burnt mess up around here. It's cleaning up okay. It is cleaning up okay. It was really trying to get all the burnt stuff off of it, the plastic and whatnot. The welds all look good. So I'm going to continue to clean this up and then prime it and then paint it. Okay. It's never going to be Concord, but all the melted stuff is off, all the bad paint is off. I can prime that now and then we'll paint it. Yeah, that looks a lot different. That's definitely worth putting the time into it. So what time is it now? It's 12:40. So we started at 8. So we got about 3 hours into this, and the plate over there needs another coat. Oh, and the bits I went round on the tractor, all the lights, sorry. Alright, so while we're waiting for that to dry, let's go and check on the chickens. Well, lovely. Nice crisp lunchtime. I'm sure it's going to warm up some more. Yeah, we still haven't quite finished with our mess, but anyway, we're nearly there. Not bad for a dog that was paralysed yesterday. What do you mean, Simon, paralysed? Well, for those of you who've been around for a while, you know how active we are and what a loon is. Well, he didn't wake me up yesterday morning, which is the first time he hasn't woken me up in about 6 years. Which is very strange. And I couldn't get him to move. Anyway, when he finally moved, he couldn't walk properly. And we have a lot of stairs down to the shop. And once we got there, it's a bit chilly. Anyway, we did our usual routine, or I did my coffee, and he was just having trouble walking. And anyway, within an hour, he couldn't walk anymore. He's on the floor. And then when I did manage to get him up, he walked on his front legs, only on his front legs. His back legs were they just didn't work. So you always weigh up at what point do you take him out the back, you know, and shoot him. And he's still young and he's still quite useful. So I thought, well, that's probably a bad idea. So we went to the vets. That was the worst idea. And anyway, he pulled him about, x-rayed him. He put an entire section of his spine. Well, I don't know why the name escapes me. I should know all about this. Anyway, he's dislocated his spine. And it's trapped all his nerves. So the vet knew what he was doing, put it back in, gave him some painkillers, sent me home, told me to massage his back 3 times a day, and rest. And there you go. You wouldn't even know. Anyway, here we are. You all know the barn. We're just going to go and check on the chickens. All looks good in there. It's hard to tell from out here. Really beautiful. Look at that. Right. Come on, bees. I'm going to check on the girls. Come on. Good boy. Let's put some lights on as we go through. Why can't we get in the frigging door? Hey, she's a liability, isn't she? Why is this door jammed up? Oh my God. How are you supposed to... I don't even understand. Well, I done this the other day real quick so the new floor can go down. It's got the door jammed up. I mean, look. Women. They've just got no clue. None. All right. Hello, girls. How are we all doing? Yeah. There we go. A lot of very happy chickens. Right, have we got water? Yep. We're all good. By the looks of it. I'll give you some more. We've got plenty of food. She did say she left them a lot. Happy chickens, happy girls. Yeah. So you notice we got no ducks. So Peggy decided the ducks had to go. So the ducks went. Eggs. I suppose I could just leave them all there. Plenty of eggs. They do like this laying box. You know, I built this, 2 years ago when we brought them inside for the first time. And compared to their summer house, they love it. They absolutely love it. Happy, happy chickens. And they got their dust bath in there. Look, look at this one. She amazes me, she does. She's proper from the, I can't remember the name of the chicken film, proper fat chicken. Look at that. Okay, we're all good. Right. Back to watching paint dry then, I suppose. Alright, I've got this panel off. First thing I'm looking for is where this big cable goes to. Well, that is the power to this switch, which is what I suspected. So the good news is this didn't suffer any fire damage. So all I have to do then is replace all this mess. Right, so what I've done is I've run the dedicated hot wire in through the engine bay and the cab and taken a new wire which comes out of there and goes into the main power into the switch. Now firstly the switch was jammed, I mean stuck, which means it hasn't been used in a very long time. Right, and it is a 4-position switch. Off. 1, 2, 3. And each time that moves, it activates various live terminals on the back of the switch. And then you've got 2 terminals coming out of the switch, both of which are permanent live. They're not switched. So this is live in, and this is live out, permanent live out. So this wire here, which then goes to these 2 sets of fuses here and here, is a permanent live. All right, that was a fascinating exercise. What did we learn? We learned that the ignition switch was incorrectly wired. That's what we learned. So this here, this white and blue cable, right, this goes via the safety switch to the starter solenoid. So that has to be changed from a large plug, which it is currently, to a small spade fitting because it goes on there. And then I had a short. So the power was on the accessories instead of on the power. And then I had a ground short, right, from everything, which meant my solenoid and my glow plugs and my accessories and my power were all going to ground. So I had a completed circuit through positive and a completed circuit through negative, which means something is badly wrong. So I checked everything I did. I isolated my negative battery cable in there, and I've got my positive battery cable there. And then I checked the back of my starter solenoid, and that was also going to ground. So this is the actual ground down there, right? And this goes to the bell housing, but this was also going to ground. My starter solenoid fly switch here, that was also going to ground. I'm just going to pop that back on there because we now know where that goes and what that does. Right. So my attention was then taken to this. I was always sceptical about this and wondered about this. This is the glow plug power cable, and the old one was on there. So I put the new one on there. That goes to ground. So I can only assume then the insulating washers in here, or what's inside here, is destroyed, because this is supposed to be a positive to the glow plugs, and it sends everything to ground, which would give me an entire system short circuit and burn out everything the instant I connected the battery. Oh my word. Oh. Okay, that's not quite how it looks. I'm not quite sure how that is attached through there, but there's clearly more rubber there supposed to insulate that from the outside, from earthing out. But none of that looks good in there. I'm not quite sure what it's supposed to look like, but I don't think it's supposed to look like that. So this is where the positive wire attaches, and it has a sealing, you know, an insulating seal on this side. It's got one between, and then presumably the positive goes through to an element in there, inside, which heats up and heats the air, but it seems to be full of muck. The spring, I don't know if it's the spring that heats up in there. That is a spring. Anyway, I don't know how much more I can take apart. I'll show you what I found. You have to take this locking nut off here, and then you've got this insulated washer which you take off, like so. And then you have this, and this is basically the electric transfer unit, if you like. It transfers the power from here into the inside of here, and it's obviously going to heat up a wire, the wire is going to act like a resistor and glow red. The trouble is, when I got that off, right, this was moving left to right, and that's why when I touched it, sometimes it was shorting out and sometimes it weren't. Anyway, it's supposed to be connected, but it was twisted all the way round, so it was touching the casing. So effectively, when I moved it back, it wouldn't have a connection, and then when I turned it back to its previous position, it was. And then I pulled it out, and it's not connected to anything, and it should be connected in there. And it was touching the casing, so it was constantly causing the ground. See, there's plenty of room. The probe that goes through there is very small, and it goes through a much larger hole, so it doesn't touch the sides. However, when it's turned, when it's not in its right housing, it's shorted out on the side. So that's no good. Well, I hope I can get another one of those. Anyway, so we've eliminated that as what was giving us an issue at the moment. Was that caused by the fire? Well, possibly, because it was right where the fire was. All of this was burnt. So maybe this was... I wonder what that does. Oh, it's just a plug. Okay, maybe this was caused as a result of the fire, warping, bending, twisting, I don't know. All right, so I've ordered up all the parts I need, and I've progressed a bit further on the wiring. Now it's time to do the diesel system. Managed to get a reasonably nice finish on this tank, given how badly damaged it was. And I've put you on the wrong side. I should be putting the tank on from this side, but anyway, we'll muscle it in there and see how we go. Awkward beyond belief. Okay. And then we can connect up the diesel lines. So what we've got to do is reconnect the returns in the back of the tank. In the back of the tank there, that's a diesel return. That's diesel in, which comes from the tap on the other side over there. Yeah, and then we've got to work out where all the return lines come from, which is which is this. So I took that off, but it's the only part I've come across at the moment to which I've completely forgotten how it goes. But anyway, we know that goes into the back of the tank, and we think we know that goes to the return diesel line on this side. There. Here. This is all diesel return. Top of the filter housing. That's the new diesel line with the old fittings and new olives. Alright, let's see if we can't connect all of that up. And whilst we're in this area, I'm an idiot. I kept saying I couldn't work out where that other return line comes. That's because I had taken out the glow plug. And don't ask me why a return diesel line goes into the back of the glow plug. I don't know. I don't know. But it does. That's where it screws into. So I'd taken this out. So there was just a hole there, so I couldn't wear. But when I'd fitted the rest of this, it could only go to one place and it could go there. And there was nothing there. And I'm like, I wonder if this fits on the end of the glow plug. And it does. Anyway, we got a new glow plug ordered, so. So that's the diesel, new diesel inlet line fitted. Return line fitted there. Round the back is the return line valve. The return going into the back of the tank there. So I haven't done it up tight yet because I've got to fit the bracket. And then you're on zoom. If we go all the way around the other side, then we have the return line there fitted, which goes underneath there and up into this unit. We've just got to bolt the bracket on, and then we have the new diesel flow line coming out of the diesel tank tap. Okay, now we just need to screw this down here onto there and fit that back bracket. Okay, and there we go. That is the diesel tank and all the diesel lines installed and the returns all tightened off, bracket in place. It's wired up. It's just a shame. It's just a shame we discovered, well, you wouldn't have discovered it until you got to the wiring anyway, that we haven't got that, because we probably could have concluded, we would have concluded all the electrics in the engine bay and the instrument panels today. I've got my battery. I'm borrowing this one out of the Toyota because, well, it wasn't in the Toyota, it was inside being charged. And I've screwed back on the back fitting and cut a couple of bits of ply to sit in there because I don't know what was in there. Whatever was in there was so badly burnt I couldn't tell what was in there. I'm not quite sure how the battery straps work. There doesn't appear for them to be anything to go back to. So I'm not sure about how the battery is held in at this moment. But I am ready, I think, to now install the battery and test the electrical system. Okay. Wow. Everything is off, right? We turn on the power cable and see if we can hear anything. Okay, power is on. Power is on. Ignition. So for ignition we're looking for a red light in there and then the gauges to light up. Ta-da! Right, let's see if we get power to the starter. No? Nothing. In neutral. And we've run wires down to the safety switch, so we shouldn't have an issue. What I have done is I've put a shield over that blade plug wire because we've got that disattached and this isn't tightened up yet, but otherwise that should just turn over. Let me go and check the starting procedure for this safety switch because I don't know if you have to have the clutch down. Right, so we're all constantly learning. So in order for this to start, both the 4-speed transmission and the high-low transmission need to be in neutral. And I bet the high-low transmission is not in neutral. Right, okay, let's try that. Power on, ignition, okay, there she goes. Right, so now we want to run it up. Before I put any of this back together and do the electrics through the hood and the air induct, I actually want to start and run this. So now is the time to put diesel in it. Right, put some diesel in it. So before we start, one of the things to note about working with everything inside and everything being brand new is there's no fluid drop from this tractor, zero, and all the fluids are full. So we've replaced the transmission fluid and the transmission filter, we replaced the oil and the oil filter, and we've replaced all the diesel filters and had the diesel system completely apart, and we don't have a drip of anything. So as yet, we haven't put any diesel back through the system. So what I've done is I've cracked the nut there and there, in and out of the injection pump. I know the filters and everything are empty, so I put diesel in the diesel tank and we're going to apply air pressure to try and force feed the diesel through the system. And then I use some rags inside a rubber glove to allow me to block this off to a certain extent, and then I can insert my air line in the side there and gently pressurise the system until we get diesel coming out down here. So what you're looking for is diesel to be coming out of here and out of there. Although you can't actually see that because it's behind the spring. Anyway, that's what we're looking for. Okay, and we have diesel there. So whilst it wasn't blowing out, I'm assuming that's because we can't get enough pressure doing it the way we're doing, but we do have, the filters are full of diesel and we do have diesel down to the pump. So that being the case, she should fire. The other good thing about putting the rags in the, when you're finished, you can take the rags out and get the diesel off your hands. Good moisturiser. Turn the electrics on, see if the field gauge works. Right. Alright. Well, that's another thing not working. I think I'm ready to start it. Oil's checked, diesel checked, water we know we've got to top up, but I've got to run her up, so let's see if it will start. Both sides look particularly awkward. It's not an easy crack to enter and exit this. That doesn't sound very good. Something about that don't sound right. The back of the starter motor is earthed directly, and that's tight. So I've got an idea. Right, let's try it now. So things that do work and things that don't work. So the oil pressure gauge works. And I've just noticed that the temperature gauge has just moved off of its needle, so that works. The rev counter works. We've got no amp meter and no fuel gauge. And these two don't work. And all the effort we went to get this on, and this isn't working. It's not producing any power. I don't know why. It's all blurry. Alrighty then. This one's going to blow your mind. Now this is not charging. Okay? So therefore the amp meter's not working, charge light's not going out. Now, the people who supplied it call it a generator. Looks like an alternator, but they call it a generator. And the idea of this is to change the tractor from the old dynamo, which is DC, direct current, to alternating current. If this is a generator, it needs a regulator box, which we've put in, new. If it's an alternator, it shouldn't be running through a generator box. So, there's two tests you can do. If it's a generator, you can on the F terminal, which is the excite, charge light, stimulating terminal, you can connect the excite wire to the positive cable and it will produce output. Now you can only do that for a second because otherwise you've got problems. Okay, so what I've done is I've got my test meter and I've connected my ground to ground with a clip. And then I've got another live wire connected to my F terminal, my excite, on the alternator. So when we start this engine, if I put this, where's my light on? If I put it to positive as it starts to charge, let's start the tractor and see what we can deduce from all of this. We'll set this up so that you can see what happens. So what we're looking for is 13.5 to 14.5 on here, right, depending on where we touch the various cables. I'm sure this is a bad idea. I'm sure this is a bad idea. Right, here we go. Test number 1 to ground. Nothing. Test number 2 to positive on the battery. If we connect the excite wire to the positive terminal on the battery, we get 14.5 volts, right, which is a good charge rate. And what's this? See, if you get a choice of how to come back in life, I'm coming back as a dog, but I also want me as an owner. That's not going to work, is it? Right. Okay. So we can get this to put out a charge by exciting the F terminal, going to positive on the battery. You know, I didn't test that, did I? I didn't test just touching that terminal on the battery and then taking it off and see if this continues to charge. We need to try that. We need to see if we can excite it into a constant charge rate. Right. So what we're checking for is we get 14.5 volts here when I touch this to the battery, and then I should be able to remove this from the battery and we still get 14.5 volts. That's what we're checking for. Here we go, here comes the noise. it now, but too high. 17.6 volts, that's no good. It's not an alternator, it's a generator. Disconnected, 17.6 volts. Okay, now we know everything. Now we do know everything. Okay, let me explain what we did there. So we used the positive battery terminal to excite the F terminal, and out of the B terminal, that gave us, once we removed the battery terminal, that gave us 17.6 volts, which is enough to supercharge everything, overheat it and cause a fire. There you go. Which also means this is not an alternator with an internal regulator, because if it was, it wouldn't produce any more than 14.5 volts. Right, that's the maximum it can produce. Ideally, 13.5. But this is producing 17.6 volts, which means this is an AC generator and not an alternator, which means it has to run through the regulator box, which means the reason that we're not getting a charge out of this is the regulator box is wired incorrectly. What I have subsequently done is this is what I didn't have, and this tells me my terminals on the regulator box and what they should go to. So now, unfortunately, we've got to take the battery out, take the cover off, right, and get to the regulator box and check our terminals are correct, are connected in the correct way. And if they're not, then we can correct them, and we should get a charge out of here, and the regulator box should regulate it from 17.6 volts. So that's what we've learnt from that. That is not an alternator, it is a generator. It does not have an internal regulator, and therefore it must run through the regulator box. And the reason it's not charging is because it's not being excited on the F terminal. You've got two terminals at the back, an F terminal and a B terminal, and the F terminal needs to excite the generator in order for it to produce a charge, which then goes to the regulator box, and the charging regulator regulates it to 13.5 volt of charge. Okay, let's take it apart and check what we've done. Alright, I've made significant progress. By the power of television, I've had it apart and I've got it back together. The fuel gauge is now working. And look at the amp meter. Ready? Okay, so now we're left with two errors. So the problem was the wires. There was two wires wrong on the voltmeter. On the, here we go again. Anyway, there was two wires the wrong way round, and then this amp meter. Right, big problem. So I can show you what it's supposed to do and what the one that was in there was doing. Okay, let's take that off. So we need many hands. Let's turn that to make a noise. This is what an amp meter should do. Okay, when you touch the two connections, it should send a current through there. This one does not. Nothing. Right. So, it wasn't until I looked at it more closely I could have spotted the problem. An amp meter, when not in use, should sit at 0. This one, like that. So it should look like that. Looks like that. Okay. So, that's that problem. Now I've got it charging as it should do through the regulator box. However, I'm having to manually stimulate this, which means this wire here, right, is not connected to the hot or temporary hot on the ignition to be able to excite it. So this doesn't work by itself, it needs exciting. Once it's exciting, it will produce the power. It's a bit like me, really. Right. And then the pilot light's not going out, which should be the same. So that red light, when the engine starts, should go out, and when the engine stops, should come back on, but be on with the ignition. I'm calling it a day now. That's been quite a long day to get that far, and we are, albeit I know it's not to look at, a lot further than we were. But it is election night, and I'm off to watch the election as it progresses through the day. Because obviously that's quite important for everybody, really, even if you don't want to admit it. You know, we're not going to talk about the brain dead. Okay. Are we good? Do I want to put that battery on charge? Yeah, I might put that battery on trickle charge. Just do it and we'll be back in the morning. It would appear I've been stuck like this for days. And I have been. I've been stuck in the wiring and understanding the charging system, and I've had it. Anyway, it's been a task, to say the least. And out of all the forums I've read and all the wiring diagrams I've got for this tractor and the wiring system, the fault was really simple. And that is, when we got the replacement wiring loom from the generic parts thing that says it fits this tractor, what it didn't have was the extra tails for the charge light. And therefore, I was at an end. The fact that the fuel gauge didn't work was because there was no power coming out of the generator. So, when I put everything together, what was missing was the wire coming back from the charge light to the F terminal or the tickle terminal on the back of the generator. So with the charge light, you've got one terminal going to the keyed ignition and the other terminal going to the F terminal on the alternator or the generator. And that's what was missing. So I've wired it all back in now. I've closed everything back up because I'm pretty sure I'm finished behind there. Put the battery in. We're going to do a quick start to make sure it all works, and you need to, as with all my tractors, apply a little bit of revs to get the generator to work, and with that the amp meter will work, the fuel meter will work, everything will work, and the charge light will go out. And at that point we're finally ready to put the bodywork back together so that I can continue the wiring. We've got the fresh air inlet to do and some of the insulation work around the battery compartment and all this stuff in here. So, let's do a start up and I'll just show you where we're at, and our wiring is now complete with regards to engine, dashboard, charging, all of that stuff. Right, so power shut off on. Everything is live. Open the door. Everything is off. Ignition on. Everything is on. And we start. Charge light will go out when I rev it. Okay, I can move forwards now with fitting the bodywork, and then we've got all the grills, the lights, and then I can fit the new wiring loom to the front, back into the fuse box, and we can start wiring up all the other lights, side lights, indicators, brake lights, all of that. So we're done with that, and now let's fit the front back on. It's the morning of yet another day, and we are making progress. I don't know the last time these lights worked. I do know those lights up here haven't worked because I didn't even have any bulbs in. And the bulbs were blown in this one. Now I have found in my old stock of bulbs, only one dip beam works, but both main beams work. And we've got those switched. So as far as front lights go now, excluding working lights, which of course we haven't got yet, I think we're there with the wiring on the switches. So I know only one of those works. I've only got one bulb. But all of those work. As does indicators. Albeit not very well. But they do work. There you go. Right. So I can put the lenses back on now. I've got the front grille. Yeah, this. This can go back on, and that basically concludes the front. The amount of different screws, screwdrivers, nuts, bolts. There we go. So, now there's no emblems, of course, because they all melted off. But that's the electrics at the front done. I've just got to put those lenses on there. None of the electrics work at the back. Brake lights, indicators. I don't know what's going on with the electrics, but none of them work at the back. But we've got the front. We've got the front working. All of which should disappear when we hit the power off button, and all of which should come on. Okay. So this tractor was far from a fully functional tractor before the fire. But since we're here and we're doing it, I could just put it back together and get it running and give it back to him in the same state as it came. And that's wrong, and that's not what he wants. Right, so we run our outside test, and I can't get the hydraulics to bleed through because we've obviously changed all the hydraulics. The back 3 points dropped right down, won't lift up, the power steering won't work. And then I can smell burning. See? Obviously I brought it back inside because this is where you want to fire. You can see just faint whiffs of smoke there. That's oil. And then we have quite a bit of oil there, and we have oil on the floor, and that has just come from that. And then deep down behind the starter motor, you see that little pipe? It's fire damaged. It's the hydraulic return, and that's why I'm not getting any pressure and why it's not bleeding. Well, I'm assuming that's why it is. So we've got to get in there and change that pipe, none of which we can do because it's all quite warm at the moment. So we've got to let it cool down without it catching fire. Well, I think it's going to catch fire, they're just like little whiffs of smoke. And I'm surprised anything's hot enough in there. Anyway, that's been squirting oil. So we can see now we've got oil sitting everywhere and on the floor. Okay, so we're going to have some lunch, let it all cool down. I think it's just the oil burning off the hot block. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is what the issue is. That hydraulic return line in there. Can't get the hydraulics to lift. Is that because I don't know how to make them lift? I don't know why I can't get the hydraulics to lift. Every tractor you get in is different. This one's only got 2 levers, so it can't be that difficult. Not unless there's a... that is a diff lock. Brakes, throttle. Not quite sure what that bar there is. Clutch. Yeah, I don't know what that one does. But that, I think, is a diff lock. Tell me out here. Right, that one is connected to this. Okay, that there is connected to that. So did I unlock it? Is that why it looks wrong? Ah, right. Well, that answers that question. That was me. I done that. So that's the hook release. This one on this side. Right, that's me not knowing what I'm doing, standing on wrong pedals. Still can't get that to lift up though. But then I don't know if this 3-point works. This normally has a big weight on the back of it. So it's not used for anything. So I don't know if the 3-point works. But I do know this is leaking hydraulic fluid. And I do know it's leaking it from behind there. And that's still smoking. Okay. Well, that didn't take long to change that out. I wonder why that was leaking. Yeah, okay. But fortunately we had to change that, so I've topped up the power steering and I've inserted the new hose back there. But in doing so, I spotted a weep on the fuel pump here. So I've just nipped these screws up and that stopped that. We've still got a little weep from here, but we're replacing this. And then, when I was blowing all the muck out, I had this constant weep of oil down here. And somehow it puddles. I'm not sure how it's still there given all the cleaning that we did on this machine, but somewhere between the starter motor there is obviously not a clear gap between the starter motor and the engine block, right? It must touch somewhere, or there's debris that catches up in there. Anyway, I kept blowing and kept blowing. You can actually see it still running down here. I thought I'd got it all out. And there's puddles of oil up behind the starter motor. So that's not going to help the cause, because if that was to ever overheat and have a little fire behind there, the first thing it hits is the diesel pump and the diesel line. So in the rebuilding of this particular tractor, I found so many reasons why this can catch fire. Could have just been, if he was running it hard, which I know he was, it could have just been debris and oil catching fire that then caught the rest of it afire. It wouldn't be the first time any of us have seen that. Okay. Right. Well, I might just have... I have put degreaser in there. Trying to clean it out. Somewhere down there, it's puddling. Anyway, that's 2 jobs done. I think we could be ready to go and test that now, see if we can get this power steering running. It's a few days later than I would have liked. I don't know why everything takes so long. Anyway, so I've finally got my work lights and glow plug. So I'm going to fit the glow plug. And the work lights, well, I bought the cheapest LED work lights they were on the Jungle Company for my tractor. But these came from, again, Olsen parts. And what excellent quality these are. These are got to be the best quality work lights I've come across. And they weren't expensive. So I'm not obviously sponsored by anybody, but Olsen's parts... incredible prices. Some of their stuff you have to, you know, the generic stuff. But really, for their prices and the quality of their stuff, you know, I can't knock it. So if you're rebuilding or need parts for tractors in Sweden, Olsen's is the way forwards. It really is. Olsen parts. Anybody that knows anything about anything knows about Olsen anyway. So, right, so... what am I doing at the moment? Well, I've got the switches and I'm just making up my little wiring looms. But I'm going to bolt them through the roof. I'm not going to weld on little tabs, which, forgive me, I can't remember which subscriber it was, told me after I put the LED lights on the tractor in the way of the emergency app, I should have welded a tab on the side. Why I didn't think about that? Oh, I just don't even know why I didn't think about that. It's so obvious, really, and quick. Anyway, so I've got a nice thick soft rubber here. I'm just cutting these up to go underneath the brackets for waterproofing. Rust preventative, leaks preventative. Does my tractor roof leak everywhere on my head when it rains or during melt? Oh yeah. So I want to avoid that. So I'm just going to cut up these small rubber pads, and I've made a switcher box because, as most of you'll know, in small tractors, you just need little squares like that. I'll drill a hole through the middle, that'll go underneath there, and that'll prevent rubbing. It'll give it a bit of flexibility, but most importantly, it'll stop the water. Right, so switch box. So I've got these switches, again from Olsen Parts, and they have the little lenses in there, show you which light is what. So we've got front lights, we've got side lights, we've got back lights, and we've got beacon. And all of these have got these lovely little lenses with little pictures of what the various lights are. So you're not just, like I do in mine, haphazardly flicking on switches, generic switches with a red. Anyway, again, Olsen Parts. It's all a bit chaotic. but I kind of know where we're going with it all. So the switcher box, okay. My initial thoughts was to make a metal one up in the, you know, control box for the switches and all the wiring. Well, that didn't really work. And then in my store of many things, I found this, right, which came to me because somebody else didn't want it. So that bit's not important. What's important is the cover. There we go. My switches are going to go into that, and then I'm going to mount all the wiring. And I've done some additional wiring since we were here last. That will all now screw up into there, up into this corner, the dark corner. So I've got all the wiring out. He wants to do away with this because at the moment this is connected to the beacon, right? And you've got this carry on. So when we go up onto the roof, I'm going to have the two front lights facing forwards, obviously, and then the side light here and the side light there, and then the back light that way facing that way, and I'm going to leave the beacon where it is because I had nothing to do with bolting that through the roof. And that should give us what we want. So oh, and the flooring. Okay, I put the flooring back in. Let's turn the light on. The flooring obviously a lot of it was fire damaged and a mess. It's not quite as thick and had as many layers as it did have, but it is back on. And the transmission housing, I guess, was the most important of all. And the owner came. He's brought his own battery, so his battery's back in, and he was over the moon with the final result, albeit it's not finished, but when he saw it on Friday, which was pretty much, other than some wiring the same state it was in, he was really happy with it. Much better than he expected. So I'm just wiring up my tails for the lights. So these little things here, they go into there, and that's the off position, and the idea is when you switch the switch on, it will light up and tell you what lights are on and what lights are working. Again, it's one of those things just to let him know he's got his lights on or whatever he's doing. It doesn't go on the main road very much, as none of them do. And these are my positive tails for the lights. This is my negative ring for the lights. And then we've got our spurs to our relays on and off. So that has... what I wanted to do was I wanted to negatively switch these. I can't because of this. I didn't put you or me through the pain of filming the installation of all the lights. You've seen me do it several times to several different vehicles. LED lights are in. The glow plug is now fitted. I'm still a little concerned. There's a diesel weep there. I'm sure that was dried off. Anyway, so I've done the electrics inside, done the switcher box, fixed all the switches. Yeah, I can show you what I've done now. So the new glow plug and wiring is installed back into there. You see why I think... I don't know if that was already there. Maybe I should dry that off one last time. The trouble is with diesel is it doesn't evaporate, so once it gets wet it just sits there. Anyway, that's the new glow plug installed. I'm still perplexed as to why a diesel return flows into the air inlet or through here. So if anybody's got any ideas, let me know, because I'm just perplexed by that. Okay, so what have we got? We've got the new LEDs on the front, on the side, and one on the back. And we'll turn the electrics on. Oh, it's already on. So I've installed the new switch box up there. which gives me everything that a driver would need. That's a terrible noise, isn't it? Rear facing lights, side lights, front lights. Oh, nice bright LEDs. Look at that. Off, 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 and then you've got the beacon there as well. Okay, well, I'm happy to say that is the concluding part of the assembly of this tractor. I'm sure I showed you the customer brought a new or his own battery. Yeah, we're done. What I have to do now is put the tractor back together, and what I mean by that is this has a front bucket on it and a rear weight. We have to go and collect these from the customer's house, bring them back here. I can start this up, take it out for a test, and then fit the front bucket and reinstall the hydraulics and the rear counterweight. Beautiful location, lovely location. Right, I've got to collect that, and this, and I'm not going to get all this on in one trip. I don't even know if I'm going to do it in two. Anyway, so we'll take this back first. Yeah, that was quite a tricky thing getting that off. Going to be an even trickier thing getting it on by myself because it has to slide over the exhaust pipe and the front and take it back. There's the railway bridge. I don't know where we are, mid-November and the river's flowing. Very strange. Still can't get over it. Still can't get over it. And there's a warm westerly wind blowing today. There we go. Look at that for a view from your hot tub. Strong westerly wind. Actually feels like it's coming from the north. North being there. Right, I've got that there. I've got the counterweight over there. And I've got the bucket there. And I've got the dog there. So I haven't got a plan for this yet. Oh, those bolts I was looking for. They're in the frame. That one there and that one there. Yeah, I don't have a plan for this other than it's now time to get the tractor out. Let's move her out. So here's the test. Now I took it off like this, but taking it off was easy because you could strap it up and lift it vertically. And everything was already broken and damaged and burnt, and the windscreen was smashed, and you know. And now the challenge is to pick that up with that and lift it over all of that lot and lower it down exactly without breaking anything. And I'm thinking to myself, can I pick it up in a way that I could actually drive the tractor into it? And I'm thinking more and more about this as I look at it. So can I pick it up from this end with the forks and hold it like that, and then drive the tractor into it and lower it down? Is that better than trying to lift it over it? I think it is. I wonder if I can't pick it up here. Right, I think that is going to work. What could possibly go wrong? Genuinely first time. I don't think that's so much testament to my skill and driving as how easy it is to get on and off. How did we do on distance? This was the big issue all along, was that plenty of clearance. Okay, good job. All we got to do now is connect it all up and see if it works. Much easier way of getting it on and off that. Much easier way. So the bolts, they went through there and they hold that bit on, and then these tighten up underneath there to hold this on. These hoses here are connected. That makes the arm go up and down. And then this hose here is connected, and that makes this swivel. Only I don't actually know how that works. I haven't actually ever had any of this running. Now it's not going to start because, there we go, it's in low. Does that. Oh, and you push it side to side. Ah. Right. Ow. Right, we should be able to pick that bucket up now then. He is annoying, I've got to grant you. He's obviously feeling better. Right, that's the bucket on. Now, we should be able to put those, where do they go? In there. That one through there like that. That pin in, yep, and then this one, in there like that, which is always one that don't quite want to go in, right, there we go. Okay. Now, what I don't appear to have, and they're not on here, are they? Are the things that hold that on, which are those like little clips. Right, we need to go and connect up that box now. I was so impressed about, which I'd forgot, mainly because it's been a long time since I've driven small tractors, and made or compounded by the fact that my main tractor is a rear wheel steer backloader, which means everything that happens in the front is slow, and the only way you can calculate it, especially when you use it with a forklift and pallets, is seat time, right? Because it's slow. Anyway, the turning circle on the Massey Ferguson 135, well, it's got the same geometry as a drift car. Unbelievably sharp, and highly manoeuvrable at the front end. I want to go and deliver this tractor now because everything I've been trying to do, I was trying to get this tractor finished and delivered back to the customer before the snow came. And the snow came. Now we have had 2 snowfalls already, but both of them melted straight away. We've been having these warm westerly winds constantly hitting us. You know, I've explained all this, the planet being on a tilt and the oval around the sun, and you know, I've heard all the conspiracy theorists screaming global warming, and if that's what you want to believe, right, that's your prerogative. Don't mean to say it's fact. Anyway, let's go and do a proper cold start on this. Now, the customer told me this has always been a slow starter, but it starts really easy. And we just put a new glow plug in this, so it should start really easy. Now, it's not terribly cold today, but what I can tell you is this snow will never go. This will be the same snow that's on the ground in May when melt comes, assuming that's going to come late, because we have to make up for the month I've just lost. We're only, to be honest, with the temperatures we're at and where we are, we're probably only 4 weeks late, but 4 weeks makes a big difference. Right, cold start. Let's see how this goes. She's been sat here now 4 days, so I'm hoping it will just fire. No, I had a feeling that was going to happen. When the customer gave me his battery, it didn't look very good, and it was indicating to me it needed to be charged, and even though it's fully charged, it ain't got what's necessary. And it's covered in snow because there's no battery cover. Now this is from the Ark. No? Okay. But it does work, and it does do what a lot of other things don't do. So what I've noticed with today's battery chargers and power packs is they've all got a microchip inside. How bad is that? Microchips. Well, I suppose it's a bit like everything else, isn't it? Microchips. It saves people from thinking for themselves. I wonder why we're in the situation we're in. It's quite safe to bring out this extension lead in the winter because it's only dangerous. That's the other downside to the winter. Is everything slippery? What was I saying? Oh, it's only dangerous when there's water on the floor. Right, now she'll go. When I press this switch, this will all turn to maximum. You know that's going to slide off and smash on the ground again, which is disappointing. The battery's completely flat. So, I don't understand why I just didn't buy a new one. All this work. Right. Because it's taken all summer to do. That's not true, of course. I've only been working on it in between other things I had to do. But I have been intensely working on it now for the last week to finish it off, and it is finished. And I think you'll agree, vast improvement on what it was when it arrived here. That's it, that's the conclusion of this series. I think this is number 5, number 6 finished of the tractor. If you haven't seen the rest, obviously do go back and have a look. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for sticking with me. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.